Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, we are going to deep dive into the advanced search form. This is the form that builds those filters that you typically see on the Explore page of a MyListing website. Before we do that, I wanted to mention the updates to the MyListing Worksheets. For those of you that don't know, these are worksheets with tons of detailed information to help you essentially build out your listings in Airtable before you even need to touch your MyListing website. So this is amazing for those that build websites for other people. It's also great for people if you just want a learning tool or to see what you've maybe missed on your MyListing website. So I'm going to do a quick introduction for this product, and you're going to get a firsthand look at it here in this video because I put a lot of work into the advanced search form section of the worksheets these past few days. Lots of testing, lots of documentation. My pain is your gain, as I like to say. But yeah, so let me quit jabbering about this particular thing and just show you here. So from the MyListing Club website, that's mylisting.club, scroll down the homepage just a bit, click on this MyListing Worksheets card here. And if you are a member, you will see these worksheets all will be embedded here, and all you got to do is copy them. There's a copy button, and you just copy it, paste it right into a free Airtable account that you own, and off you go. I'm also probably going to offer this as a one-off product that people can purchase and just download and import into their Airtable. But this is a perk of the club membership. As I update these, they're literally updating in real time for people as you go along. Whereas a one-off product, you wouldn't get the updates unless you downloaded it over and over again. Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. And before we start building out our advanced search form, let's quickly look at what I've done here the past few days. The very first tab we're looking at here in the worksheet is the advanced search form filters glossary. So when you start to build out these filters, then like over here, here's the filters. All these filters, this is another tab in the worksheet, obviously. You'll see all of these across the top. What are these filters? There's a handful of filters, and these are all the things that go along with those filters. So to understand them, I built this glossary. So here are the available filters, which you'll see as we build out our listing type. And then I explain what each of these, what is the purpose of each of these filters? What do they do? Do they have any dependencies? Like, for example, a filter dependency. The proximity filter depends on the location filter. So don't add proximity if you're not using location. Field dependencies. Which of these filters rely on which fields? And is there a maximum usage? You'll see this firsthand here. And basically what this means is once you use a filter one time with these three that I've indicated here, that's it. You can use them one time. Okay, so that's the glossary. And if you drill down into these explanations, it goes into detail about which fields which fields these go into. For example, all kinds of stuff. So I'll let you guys go through that. But this is the main thing we're going to be working from here. I created a restaurant demo row here. And we're going to be just working from this, setting up a real world example for a restaurant. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and dive in here. Here I've got a listing type. I've named it test, and we are on the search forms, advanced form tab here. And this is the defaults. I've done nothing else to this yet. We're going to do that live here together. Really quickly is this order by. This is what dictates this listing order. This is something I'll probably do in a separate video because it's it can be complex. Once you drill down through these, it can be complex. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to go with the defaults, which is the ordering options. How do we order the listings that show up in our filter? So we're going to default to latest, and then it goes to top rated and then random. So that's the order of priority, the listing order. Okay, that's what this order by is. So let me pull up the Explore page here. With doing nothing else here, you'll see that order by is a built-in feature that you can't get rid of unless you want to programmatically do that. But this is a built-in feature that's there. And you'll see this is the order. Okay, so by default, we're going to order the listings in the latest. So the newest ones that match the criteria that are published on the website. Okay, this makes sense because listing 1 here I posted, and then I posted listing 2. So listing 2 would be the latest. Okay, so if you do nothing else, that's how that works. Okay, all right, so we're going to go through these each one by one. I'm going to try to reference the worksheet as little as I possibly can for the sake of time to make this go faster. If I forget something, I will reference the worksheet. Or I may reference the worksheet just to show you some examples of just how in-depth the worksheet is. Okay? All right, so first up, general search box. Not much to this one other than assigning a label. So I probably wouldn't put general search box as a label, so I would call this maybe search by keywords. And then I put maybe a couple periods in there so they know that maybe that's clickable, that type of thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that. Going back to the worksheet, I'm gonna start showing you an example right away. So general search box, that's this guy right here. So the first thing I ask in the worksheet is let's assign a label. If adding this filter, would you like to assign a custom label? Leave it blank to assign the default label. The default is general search box. So you can see, you hand this off to a client or you use it yourself and you just work through all of this stuff. And you end up with this nice long list of all the criteria you need to build out all of the listing types, rather than sitting back here in the back end and clicking back and forth and asking the client, what should I put here? What should I put there? Or even asking yourself, what should I put here? What should I put there? You just do it once. So let's say search by keyword is what you would want to use across all of your listing types. You just type that in once, drag this in Airtable or whatever tool you're going to use this with. Again, this is built with Airtable, but you could probably copy and paste it into other things if you wanted. But you see the power there. You just build it once, and then you just copy and clone all these fields and adjust them if you need to. That's the power of this. One of the many powers of this worksheet. Okay. Another thing I did, if we go back to the glossary, we look at the general search box, click into this. This is going to give us further description. This allows users to use text-based searches to filter out desirable listings. Unlike the text search, which we'll look at here in a minute, this search is not limited to a specified field. It searches through all of the eligible fields. That's a keyword, eligible fields. This filter can be used to search the following fields, and I list all of those here. Okay, so what I did over the past few days is I went into listings. Let me pull up actually, let me show you here the fields. So what I did was I took a listing type from scratch. I added every single field in order that my listing presents them and dropped them in. And then I went into a listing. Let's just go into one of these listings. We'll call this listing 1 here. I went into every single field, filled them in, put keywords in here that would only come up with the listing 1. So the number 1 is key here. So number 1 is a keyword in here. There's number 1 is in the tagline, and so on and so forth. So that's what I did to set all of this up. Okay, so back to our form. Search keywords is what search by keywords is what I've changed that label to. Let me refresh this explore page, and here we go. Putting that dot in here, it's like kind of makes me think like this is clickable. I've also seen clients put click to search by keyword, so then they know to click in here. Okay, so let's just search. We know that we've got a listing called listing 1. So that's kind of a little too obvious. What's another thing that I can search by here? Let's do taglines. So let's do tagline 1. Tagline 1. There we go. So that filters them all out by searching through the tagline field. All right. Close this down here. Now, moving on, I would leave this one in here if it was me, whether it's at the top or, I move it to the bottom of the form. Next up, let's look at text search. This is one that I've never really seen left on a website, especially when this general search is used, but totally up to you there. So again, text search, you're probably not going to want it to be text search. You probably want something, let's see, one of these fields we can use here. Let's text search through the video URL. So search video URL keyword, something like that. Okay, and I quickly want to point out, let me update this. Going back to the worksheet, looking at the glossary, the text search, clicking into this and opening up this description. This allows users to use text-based searches to filter out desirable listings. Unlike the general search box, this search is limited to the specified field. And what I did before, this past few days is I've tested every single field and made sure that this actually searches through these fields. Okay, so that's what I've listed here. Video URL, which we're testing here, is one of those. Okay, so let me make sure I save my changes. I think I did. Let me refresh. So now we're targeting a search directly at that URL field. Okay, let me see. I think I should have video 1. Let me see. Let me pull up this. Let me pull up my listings in another screen here, just so I have these at the ready and I know what I can search for. All right, video, 1 video. Okay, so that's what it is. 1 video. And now our listing 1 comes up. Okay, so if I change this to a 2, listing 2 comes up. All right. Like I said, I haven't seen this on a website yet. It's not to say that it's not useful. It definitely is useful. I just haven't seen it. Usually I just see this search by keywords and we call it a day. But totally up to you. So I'm going to take that one out. Next up we're going to look at is range. Okay. In this particular example, I don't want the label of range to be in there because that doesn't really tell us anything. So I'm going to say dinner price range. Okay. And I'm going to use a field. And this is the only field that you can use for this, by the way, without doing some custom programming, custom development. Custom field number, that's it. So they put a number in the field for whatever the thing is that you're trying to do a range for. In this case, we're going to do it for dinner pricing. And that's it, okay? The first one we're going to look at, the first type, is we're going to look at the slider, okay? Step size is, what is the amount when someone does the slider? What is the amount that the slider changes? What are the increments? I'm going to do this, since we're doing dinner plates, dinner cost, I'm going to do this by $1 at a time. So step size, we're going to keep that at 1. So that's $1 at a time. Prefix. What is the symbol or value or whatever that you want to add before the actual number? So I'm going to put a $sign in there. Okay. And then a suffix. What do you want to appear after that? So you could do something like plus tax. Okay. And then the last thing here that is checked by default is format the numbers. So if it's like 1,000, we're going to put a comma in there. 2,000, we're going to put a comma in there. So that's what that would be for. Okay, so we're just going to leave that as is. Let's refresh over here. So here we go. Here's our dinner price range. So we are topping out between 10 and 15. It's showing, all of our ranges by default. Let's drop this down to less than $15. I know that listing 2's dinner cost is $15. That's why that's appearing. So as soon as I drop this down to 14, which you see, that's that increment, that's that step size. We dropped down $1 at a time. Now, as soon as we drop that down to $14, listing 2 drops out of our price range because it has a $15 dinner value, okay? So if I change, let's change the step, let's go $5. Okay, refresh the screen here. So now instead of stepping $1 at a time, we're going to reset our filters here. Instead of dropping 1 at a time, we're going to drop it. Every time you slide it, it drops $5. Oops. Yeah, it doesn't work in this particular case. If I change it to, you get the idea, but we'll just do one more. Let's change it by $2. It's because we only have 2 listings in there. It's not realistic. There you go. See it changing by $2. It's kind of funky just because the number of listings that we have in here, but you get the idea. Hey, the other thing I wanted to point out in the worksheets for this one is just to show you the depth that I've gone to here, range. Okay, so we've got the range label. We've got the range type where I go in and I explain all of this and give like an example. The slider behavior I talk about, the step size, I explain all of that. The prefix, I explain when, where, why you might want to use that. As you saw though, when I did a search here for range, 11 items here, just on this one field that I cover. So you can see the depth that I go to with this stuff. Okay, let's go back here to the range and let's just put $1 back on for our step size. Keep our prefix and our suffix the same. Now, the only other thing we might want to test here is the type. So instead of a slider, let's do a single slider. Okay, that does unlock another behavior value. So let's just go with the default first, and we'll check the behavior next. So now instead of a slider, we just like a 2-prong slider, I call it, a min and a max. Also, it just slides it one way or back, but it just does one value at a time versus a range. Okay, that's the difference. Now, the last thing we look at is the behavior. By default, it's going to match all listings with a value less than or equal to the value slider. The other option is match all listings with a value greater than or equal to the slider value. So it totally depends on your business, how you want that to work, but that is that. Okay, so I'm going to leave the range slider in there and all of that other stuff as is. And we're going to move on to location. This one's pretty simple. This just pulls from the address field. Okay. And I'm just going to leave the location label as is. I like that in there. Okay. Let's refresh here and we'll just see what we get by default. Okay, so by default, we've got this location field. Let me reset the filters because the price range thing looks weird. Okay, location. So I know I've got a listing in Charlotte. So let me do a search for that. There we go. So that's going to show you all the listings in that city. But now let's say you've got 2 listings in the area and you want to see, and all things being equal, like the rating is the same, the price is where you need it to be, the location's good, but you want to see which one is closest to you. So that's where that proximity filter is great to give people. So drop that in. Another key is you drop it right below the location. Okay, so put that in there. I like the label of proximity. I want to change the units to mile, from kilometers to miles, because I'm in the US. Step size, I want to do a mile at a time because, again, I want to see what's closest to me. So I would start like, hey, show me everything within a mile of me first as the step size. Okay. Minimum value, I'm also going to put this as 1 mile. And maximum value, I'm probably not going to drive 500 miles to go to a restaurant. If I'm looking for something fast, find me the best cheeseburger within a mile or 20 miles or whatever. So we'll put 20 miles in here as the maximum value. And we're going to default to 1 mile. All right. So that's what that means there. And we'll refresh and reset our filters, refresh. Okay, so let's put in that same city, Charlotte. Now we've got the proximity slider. And as we did here, let's go back. Okay, we got our miles. Our step size is 1 and we're defaulting to 1. Okay, so here's the default. It's defaulting to 1. And when I slide to the right, it's stepping by 1. And you see when I go all the way back to the left, I cannot go past 1 mile, lower than 1 mile. And that is defined by the minimum value here. Okay. The max value, same thing. I can't go over 20 miles. There we go. Okay, so that is it for proximity. Pretty simple. I'm going to leave that in there. I like to have that one in there. Dropdown. So this one as well, a lot of entries I believe are in here. If I type dropdown, yeah, 9 entries in here for building out the drop downs. So label. Here we go. So we got the label, talk about custom taxonomy, ordering by, you see all the information in there. I'm going to try to do this by memory. Order, hide empty items. Again, lots in there, a lot of education in there. Okay, so drop down. Let's pretend we're going to do, let's pretend that we don't have categories here. You can also do it in both. Let's pretend we don't have this categories tab. So let's use categories here. So we don't want to use drop down for the label. So we want to put in categories. And we want to use our category field. And when you see this best performance here, that is MyListing telling you that if you want the best performance when filtering, like let's say you have a ton of listings, for best performance, you want to use these top 4 here, okay? And the difference is you've got these fields like for example, checkboxes. This is built into MyListing. You have these checkboxes where you can add the stuff. These are not performant, okay? Compared to what they recommend, which is true, is these up here. These are the most performant. So if you look down here, I just showed you custom field checkboxes, for example. Those are not as performant. So you want to try to use these built-in fields here. Okay, if you need to extend past categories, region, and tags, build you a custom taxonomy. Add that in there. Okay, so we're going to go with the category field here. And order by. This is how do you want to order the things in the dropdown? So do you want to do it by count? That's the default. So let's say you have 50 listings that have a certain category, and then 40 listings that have another category. Do you want to show them in the order of the 50 and then the 40, the tags in that order, the ones with the 50 listings and then the 40 and so on. So it's kind of like a way to do like popularity. You can do it that way. So we'll just go with that by default. Ascending or descending, and we're going to look at that. Hide empty items. So this is really, I love this being on by default. Sorry if you hear my dog making noise. I love this one being on by default because it doesn't produce results for the users that are not valuable. So you don't want to show them empty things that aren't going to produce results for them. So I don't want to show them the Greek restaurant category if there's no Greek listings that are going to come up. So you want to hide those. Enable multi-select. In this particular example, yeah, you want to leave this on because they should be able to select any different type of restaurants that they want. If it's a scenario where you want to only let them pick one category, then yeah, you would unselect that. Okay. And then if you're going to use the multi-select, the behavior, show listings matching any of the selected items. And then this other one, show listings matching all of the selected items. So we'll get into that a little bit more. But first, let's just go with the defaults. I changed the label. We use the category field. We're going to stick with the default count and the default descending. Set my filters just to be sure here. Okay, so here we are. Here's our categories. And it's showing us the count. That's why it's doing it in this order. Okay, so this is saying that category 1 is possessed. We'll say possessed by more listings than any other category. Okay, category 4 holds the next amount of listings. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if we jump back in here and we change this to name, it doesn't matter how many listings are associated with that category. It's just going to give us the selection in order. And you'll see here that it's in descending order. So it's descending in value. Okay. If I change this to ascending, it's going to ascend in value. So starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, that's ascending. That's how I like to do it with ascending value. Okay. When I'm building these, I typically build these out just like this. Order by name and ascending, hide items, enable multi-select. And then here, lastly, let's look at this, the multi-select behavior. So if I select category 1, show me all of the listings that match category 1, okay? The converse here is show listing matching all of the selected items, okay? So if I do this, let's refresh, reset our filters. Now, what this is saying is that only show the listings that match the exact sequence here. They must be part of category 1 and they must be part of category 5. Let's choose another one. They must be part of category 7. You see the listings start to drop off. They must be part of category 2. Okay, so all of these, this listing matches all of those criteria. So that's what that's for. Okay, typically the default is what I use and recommend there. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is date. And again, in the worksheet, I cover what this is about, but you see the fields here. This is actually accurate. So for this, instead of date, I could call this event date for the label. You don't want to just put date in there because that just doesn't really mean anything. You could also do this. Date established. So if you want to know like when the restaurant was first built, you could use a date established. It doesn't have to be an event. We're going to use field date here. Okay. And our type is exact date. Our option here is a date range. Okay. So we're just going to go with the defaults first to see this. And then the default date format is year, month, and day. And if I jump over to the worksheet and do a search for date, there are 14 entries here for date. So a lot went into the date one as well. A lot went into all of these, truth be told. But okay, so let's go ahead and we'll reset our filters and reload our Explore page. There we go. Again, breaking this down, date established. We're using the exact date. So that's why you're seeing the ability to pick one date here. All right. And you'll see the ability to pick a month and a year and a day. All right. Exact date, year, month, and a day. Okay. If you want to do years only, in this case, probably is a good idea because we're just wanting to find out when the restaurant was established and sort by that information. All right. So that way now it changes. You're not picking from a calendar. That way you're just picking the year. Date established. Okay. That doesn't really help us because it's just not realistic. You're not going to pick an exact date something was established. So that's where the range would come into play. Okay. So let's do a date range. Okay. So now you come in here and you say, let's reset these. And you come in here and you say, oh, I would like to find a restaurant that was established from in my childhood. I want to see, those restaurants. Anything from my childhood between the time I was 10 years old and the time I was 16 years old. Show me all those restaurants. I'm going to go back in time and see these restaurants that, were established back then. See how they've changed, or maybe they haven't changed. And there's that nostalgia, that sort of thing. Okay. And like I said, you can use this for anything that's date related. You can do like an event date, whatever you want to do there. Okay. I'm going to take that out. I think we've covered everything in here. Yeah, we've covered everything in here. So I'm going to take this one out. I'm not going to use that one. Next up is recurring date. This gets a little bit more complex, unlike just choosing a single date, a single point in time. This is obviously it's recurring. Okay, so as it says, recurring date. I'm going to call this, instead of recurring date, I'm going to call this events. All right, and these are the fields that we can use: event date or custom field recurring. All right, by default, and I get into this hardcore into the work in the worksheet because there's so many things you can do here. You can rearrange these. You can change the way these are titled, the labels. You can add your own ranges here, all kinds of stuff. So I'm just going to show you what you get here by default. The only thing I've changed is the label. Okay, so coming down here, we see, all right, we can search by our keyword, we can dinner price range, where's it located, or what cuisine types do they serve, which would be our categories. You've got that down, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Do they have any events today, or any day? And then you can just start filtering by that. Okay, so that is how it looks by default. And like I said, you can change those labels to read whatever you want. All right, and you can add a range. So let's come in here. Let's say tomorrow. All right, let's do a before and after. I'll just duplicate this tab. So here was before. You had these 6 values here, and then this is after. You now have this tomorrow option. Okay, and you can add a number of them here. This month, next month, any day, including the past days. That sort of thing. And if you want to delete one, you can delete them that way. Really, really, really cool stuff. Okay, so now getting down to the date picker. So do you want to show a date picker? Just update this and let's see what we've got here. What comes into play there is this pick a date. All right, so click into there. And now we've got a range. This is a reoccurring field, right? So you pick the range. You can pick the month, the year, and the day. Okay? So there's a range. All right? Now, taking it a step further, so that's our date picker. Okay? Next is the time picker. Do you want, typically events are time-based, unless an event is going all day long. Typically, they're time-based. So let's refresh this. And this is going to unlock this time feature down here. So you can select the time as well. So 12 a.m. to, whatever. And filter that way. So that's what that does. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and see if we want to leave this. We can leave this. I like that being in there, finding events from the restaurant. Okay. So next up is checkboxes. Okay, for this one, we're going to look at the amenities field. So I'm going to change the label. I'm going to call this amenities. And like I said, we're going to use the amenities field here. But in this case, we're using tags. Again, we want to use the most performant ones. We're going to use tags in this case because I know those are what I'm using for my amenities. I'll just show you that real quick here. So listings, tags. Here's some amenities in here. And I pre-populated these for the purposes of this video. Tags 1A through 1C are active on listing 1, and tags 2A, B, and C here are active for listing 2. And then I've got a couple extras, D and E, for each of those for a purpose you'll see here in a second. Okay. So I've got my amenities label. We're using the checkbox filter. I've picked my amenities field, which is tags in this case, and count. So if your advanced search form real estate is of high priority to you, you really want to maximize the space. Maybe you want to limit the count. Let me just show you how this looks by default out of the box. Okay, and you can order this different. Like I've got some CSS on, for how to put this stuff side by side. See if I can do this really, really quick here. I don't know if I need getting a little off track here, but got to find the right CSS here. I think it's this guy. Yeah, there we go. This one. All right. So then real quick there, I just put that side by side with some CSS. That helps with the space too, to maximize the space. But anyway, you see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, There's 7. Anyway, so what this does here, let's go back. What we're saying here is limit the number of tags to 8, okay? It's because we're hiding empty. Let me unhide these real quick. I'll explain that too. So here we go. I took my CSS away, but you can see we could put these on 2 lines. But we see here, there should be 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Okay, so that's our max that we're allowing it to show. If we change this to 4, we have a max 4. So one of the reasons you might want to use this is if you want to really maximize your space for your advanced search form, to declutter it, to keep things nice and tidy. There are caveats to that too, because you might not be showing some amenities that you want people to see. All right. So I unhid the hide empty items just to show you that. I would definitely hide empty items for the reason I stated earlier. Again, it depends what you want to do on the count. I like to do order by name instead of count. So again, I explained earlier what count was. Let's present the tags in order that they are most associated with listings. If tag 1A is associated with 50 listings, whereas tag whatever is associated with 10, let's put them in that order, that sort of things. I like to do name, just like I do with the categories. I like to do by name. And we already went over ascending and descending. I like to do name and ascending here as well. Hide empty items. We went over this earlier too. I like to allow people to multi-select the amenities, and we're going to match any listing, the default here, match any of the listings that match any of the amenities. All right, so let's go ahead and save this. And we will refresh. Okay, so there we go. We're allowing 8 amenities. And let's go ahead and reset our filters here. I know that 1A is for listing 1. I know 2A is for listing 2. All right, so if I just do tag 1, it's going to filter by that. If I do tag 2A, only that is going to pop up. Okay, so that's cool. That works as expected. Now, going back to our filter, if we change the behavior, let's say this again, show listings matching all of the selected terms. Okay, let's reset. Go ahead and refresh just in case. Now, again, tag 1, it's going to produce tag 1. Tag 1B, again, still in tag 1. Now, if somebody comes down here, let's pretend tag 1A was Wi-Fi and tag 2 was pet friendly. And then now they come down here and they say, oh, we also want a restaurant that's got, whatever else. And they choose it because not all 3 of these criteria match any exact listing. We're not going to show any of them. Okay. As soon as I take this tag off, we start seeing results. So that's what that is for. Okay. So we're going to leave this, and we're going to leave the default setting there. I'm going to leave this. This all looks good. I like this to be in my form. That's fine. Up to you on the count, on what you want to do there. If you're also worried about real estate, that's when you could do things like, instead of using checkboxes, you could use a dropdown, because that way it becomes less of an issue as far as space, because everything's just going to drop down. Okay. The only concern there might be something to think about is if you have a million things that are going to show in the dropdown, you just think about performance. If you're on Good Hosting, it should not be an issue. If you're on Keensta like I am or my clients are at, it shouldn't be an issue, but it's just something to test out and think about. All right, we will leave that as is. Related listings. Clicking into this, you could leave it like this. Like you could say related listings. I wouldn't say related listing, unless you just know there's always going to just be one related listing. And then you use the default related listing field, or if you've got multiple related listings, you could use the custom related listings field to add more in there. So let's just go with the default and see what we've got there. Okay, there we go. Related listings and listing 1. Show me all of the listings related to listing 1. Okay, so I've done this ahead of time before this video. I've related listing 2 to listing 1. All right. When would this be useful? I struggled with this. Let me go to my worksheet to figure out what I said here. Oh yeah, you know what? It's in the glossary here. So what did I say here? Maybe I didn't say anything because, oh, here I have it. Filters listings that relate. Change that while I'm on here. That relate to other listings. This is only useful once the user has narrowed down the listings using other filters and found what they were looking for. They could then use the related listing filter to find other listings that relate. I don't see this filter being useful. Users typically filter for the desired listings, click on the listing associated preview cards, and then discover related listings that way. Okay, so let's see what I mean by that. So I just don't see this being that useful. Instead, if somebody comes in here and they do all of their criteria and they're like, yeah, listing 1, that's the restaurant I want to go to. So they go in there, they click on the preview card, as I said, and then down here, you may also be interested in. That's when they're going to find other listings that relate. You know, it's not exactly the related listings field, but that's where they're going to find other restaurants that match the criteria. For those that don't know, you do that under single page, similar listings. You can really get granular with what you define that shows up there. And that's, to me, is where you build that out. You don't do it with this related listings option there. Okay, but it is there. It's available to you. I'm not going to use it in this demo listing I've got going on here. This demo listing type I've got going on. All right. Next up is the UI heading. And this is pretty simple. So let's say I want to break up this form. Looking at it here, go back. Let's say we want to break this form up. It's just it all goes together. You kind of want to break it up. So I'm just going to drop this above events. And I'm going to call this restaurant events. Okay. And then we want the event field filter, I shouldn't say field, filter to be right below that. I'm going to move amenities up here under categories. All right, let's refresh. There you go. The restaurant events is our heading, and then we've got our events. This just breaks things up and it make me, a little bit easier on the eyes. It just breaks up the form. Okay. And because this is one of those fields that you can use over and over again, you can break this out and use it as many times as you want. So let's move this up here. Let's do this. Let's call this location, or actually let's call this, we call it location for the purposes of this video here. We'll call this location, and we're going to move our location and our proximity below that one. And what else? Let's do another one called general info. Okay. Under general info, we'll move that to the top. We're going to put our dinner price range, our categories, and our amenities. Okay. Now let's see what we've got here. There we go. So we come down here, search by keywords just kind of stands on its own. General info, what's the restaurant categories? What are the amenities? What's the dinner price? The next section is location. We'll call it whatever you want, directions, whatever. And you enter your location there. And then proximity will pop up again, shows up under the heading of location. And then you come down here into events, and you can get creative down there as well. Just a really, really nice way to break up the form. All right, we're going to leave those. And then the last thing here is open now. And we are going to move this under general info. We'll move this to the very top. You know what? We'll move it below price range, because we want to find out the cuisine. We don't want to find out what's open. Well, you know, it depends. Let's just pretend this is like a late night restaurant listing type. Like I want to find the restaurants that are just open now. I don't even care about anything else. I just need food like right now. So we'll move that to the very top of the general info. Clicking into that, it's very simple. Change the label. That's pretty much it. That pulls from the work hours field. All right, so let's update this. Okay, so there we go. So right here at the very top under general info, open now. Okay, I come in here, it's late night, I'm starving, I don't care. I don't care too much. Just show me what is open now. So the default is all, and now it's open now. Show me what's open now. Okay, I'm starving. What's open now? I need to also. It's late night. I can't sleep because I've got a meeting tomorrow. I need Wi-Fi because I need to do a little bit of work too. So that's tag 1A. Okay, that's awesome. I don't care what the price is. Like $15 is fine. Boom, you've got your restaurant. Okay. You could also say, does it have any events? Like we'll call it late night. Like 10 o'clock. A restaurant can still be open, and some are open later and have events. And you want to make sure that there's no events going on, because you want to be quiet while you're working. So you could filter that way and just make sure there's no events going on. All right. All right, guys, I hope this was valuable. I've been meaning to do this for a long time. Really check out the worksheets. I put a crap load of time into these things, breaking everything down. Like I said, especially if you're building websites for other people, hand them this, charge them for it if you want to. It's worth its weight in gold. If you want to learn and get your hands on it and just learn. Maybe there's things that you missed, that sort of thing. Fill in the blanks for your existing MyListing website. All right, guys, hope all is well, and I will catch you on the next one.